This is All India Radio. Welcome to the business news program Money Matters. My name is V. Ravi Kumar and with me is my co-anchor in Hindi, Amrish Saxena.
नमस्कार। इस कार्यक्रम में हम शेयर बाजार, कारोबार और अर्थ जगत की ताज़ा खबरों को लेकर हाजिर हैं। आइए शुरू करते हैं अंग्रेजी में हेडलाइन से।
The headline: Sensex and Nifty declined more than 1.5% during the week ended yesterday. Sensex closes few points above the 49,000 mark amid negative global cues. Nifty settles above the 14,500 level. And US stocks logged gains of more than 1% yesterday in hope of robust economic recovery.
और आज की पहली खबर, कल समाप्त हुए सप्ताह में सेंसेक्स और निफ्टी में गिरावट दिखाई दी। दुनिया के बाजारों से मिल रहे नकारात्मक संकेतों के बीच प्रमुख शेयर बाजारों में सप्ताह के दौरान 1.5% से अधिक की गिरावट दर्ज की गई। देश के विभिन्न भागों में कोरोना वायरस मामलों के फिर से बढ़ने से भी निवेशकों में निराशा का भाव रहा। बंबई शेयर बाजार का सेंसेक्स 49,000 के ठीक ऊपर जाकर बंद हुआ। नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का निफ्टी 14,500 के स्तर से कुछ ऊपर बंद हुआ। सप्ताह के दौरान सेंसेक्स 850 अंक यानी 1.7% की गिरावट के साथ 49,009 अंकों पर बंद हुआ। निफ्टी 237 अंक यानी 1.61% गिरकर 14,507 अंकों पर आ गया। बंबई शेयर बाजार के मिड कैप और स्मॉल कैप सूचकांकों में भी गिरावट देखी गई, लेकिन उन्होंने सेंसेक्स से बेहतर प्रदर्शन किया। मिड कैप सूचकांक 0.37% गिरकर बंद हुआ, जबकि स्मॉल कैप सूचकांक में 0.94% की गिरावट दर्ज की गई।
We also have Sharad Kohli online with us. Sharad, what would you like to say about the stock market movement in the week gone by?
I think the stock markets have once again been spooked by the coronavirus threat, and with Europe, one country after other going into lockdown or imposing those strict restrictions, and more particularly in India, we've been seeing the kind of surge in the cases. The speed of surge is more than what we saw in the last year. So I think that is, and we heard Maharashtra last evening going into night curfew. I mean, there's Madhya Pradesh, there is Haryana, there is Punjab, even Delhi. We are expecting, we are seeing a surge in cases. I think that is scaring away the investors. And the difference between last corona phase and this corona phase is, I think all listeners would observe this if I mention that last time when corona cases were growing, there was a lot of money flowing into the country. We were talking of liquidity and the markets. If I talk of Nifty 7,500 to 15,000, the whole ride was during the period of lockdown and while the corona cases were surging. But now, I think corona cases, I think the stamina of the economy and the stamina of people or the stamina of the investors, shall I say, probably has run out, and they are now feeling more scared from corona than earlier. Although, having said that, it is also being speculated that now probably if a lockdown happens, God forbid it doesn't happen, but if it happens, it will not be in the same form the way it was when we saw literally curfew on the roads across the country and across the world. But despite that, I think investors are now worried that this second or third wave of corona is probably looks more devastating, although the mortality rate in India is better, but the infection rate, because of these mutants, the South African mutation or the British mutation, I think that the infection is causing a lot of scare amongst investors, and which is why even though there were some favorable aspects like the US job data went down, the claims went down by 80,000-90,000, and the US GDP growth was expected to be positive and better. But despite that, I think the investors are now really getting very worried about the coronavirus, and I think in the weeks to come, in the times to come, I think coronavirus will again become a dominating factor for the stock market. And suddenly, the stock market will also forgotten the bond yields. Last week, we were talking about the bond yields being the villain. And now suddenly, the bond yields are still at over 1.6%, but investors are ignoring that and they are only looking at coronavirus.
So, Sharad, if you look at the last 1 year, March 2020, we went down to 27,000. I'm talking of the Sensex. Then we have come up to 52,000. Now we are slightly around 49,000. If you see when the ride upwards happened, it was like a one-way upward ride.
Yep.
And everybody was trying to say, when should I get in? Because that fear of missing out on a rally was huge. Now that it has come down, is this the right time to get in, or would you wait for further correction?
No, I think, as you rightly said, it's called FOMO, the fear of missing out in stock market. We use the, the abbreviated form FOMO. Well, I think I would like to wait because the markets, first of all, the valuations of certain companies, especially the large cap stocks, have already gone high. I mean, the stocks are trading at high. So some correction logically also is expected when you reach this level. But the way we have, from the time budget came, the markets are now almost at pre-budget level. I mean, all the budget-related euphoria which had built up seemed to have fizzled out by now. So we are at the level when the budget was being expected and so on and so forth. So I would rather like to wait because we do not know as of now how far this corona infections are going to grow, because the vaccination process is also going along. But the problem with vaccination is that, first of all, we've only been able to vaccinate about 5 crore people in India, and it is going on very extensively. But with 132 or 135 crore population, at this speed, we may take a few years to finish it. So therefore, I think the government is probably rethinking the strategy to make it like a roadside mission where, you have camps being set up, a war room kind of initiative is required. So I think despite the vaccination, despite multiple vaccines being out, the investors seem to be scared. So I would rather prefer waiting for more correction to happen, and the right time to enter would be when it again takes a U-turn and when it starts climbing the curve. I think that will be the time to re-enter the market. Till such time, the volatility is going to be there. You will see a day like we saw, yesterday. The market went up after on expiry on Thursday. The markets went down for the last 4 or 5 days. Then suddenly on Friday there was some covering. So you will expect this volatility. So I would rather, as a midterm to long-term investor, wait for better prices to come in and enter when the U-turn starts happening. Just when it starts climbing up, I think that will be the right time to enter.
Right. Let's look at the rupee. The rupee in the business week ended yesterday remained flat at 72 rupees and 52 paise against the US dollar, even as the volatility in the rupee trade was high. However, the dollar index, which indicates the US dollar's strength against a basket of 6 other leading currencies, fell 15 basis points to 91.77. And look at the US market as well. The 3 major US stock indices logged gains of more than 1% yesterday. The Wall Street equity indices rose, supported by gains in technology, healthcare and financial stocks amid reports suggesting an economic recovery that is expected to deliver the fastest growth since 1984. The S&P 500 and the Dow witnessed volatility as investors balanced their portfolios at the quarter's end and continued to buy stocks that stand to benefit from a growing economy. The Nasdaq also ended higher as less popular tech shares advanced, but it posted its second weekly decline in a row. The S&P 500 surged 1.7%, the Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed 1.4%, and the Nasdaq Composite Index gained 1.2%. Sharad, they're expecting almost as great as 1984. I was looking at the data. 1984 was 7.2% growth, and ever since that, in the last 37 years, they've not even crossed 5%. What is the cause of this euphoria in the US? Short comment, please.
Well, I think it is the government. I mean, I don't want to be personal, but I think the government over the last 4 years in US, I think the whole world knows the kind of policies and the kind of approach. So I think it's a mixed reaction of what has happened over the last 4 years. And of course, the present situation, the new Biden administration is settling down. I think they might take a while for the long-term policies to be settling down on the table.
और चलते हैं कार्यक्रम की समाप्ति की ओर। शरद, इस कार्यक्रम में भाग लेने और श्रोताओं को बहुमूल्य जानकारी देने के लिए आपका धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद जी, धन्यवाद।
और अंत में मुख्य समाचार एक बार फिर। कल समाप्त हुए सप्ताह में सेंसेक्स और निफ्टी में 1.5% से अधिक की गिरावट दर्ज की गई। दुनिया से मिल रहे नकारात्मक संकेतों के बीच सेंसेक्स 49,000 के स्तर के कुछ ऊपर जाकर बंद हुआ। निफ्टी 14,500 के स्तर को पार कर गया और अमेरिका में अच्छी आर्थिक रिकवरी की उम्मीद के बीच शेयर बाजारों में 1% से अधिक की बढ़त दिखाई दी।
That's it in this edition of Money Matters. Namaskar.